Alright, so what are we up to today? Well, for one, we've got a noisy fan in the background. That's going to get to be a common theme because it's turning into summer. And multiple sclerosis, in my case, is both stress and heat dependent. So, I've got to keep cool. In the meantime, this thing's arrived, along with a huge box full of stuff. So, after I'm done with the intro, I'll take an extract from the December donations and deliveries, and which you may not have seen. I'm not sure which is going to get released first. But anyway, this will go over everything that was in this box. Safest to say, for my 100 or 120 Australian dollars, I don't recall what I spent on this, it wasn't much. It got here quick, it's cheap, and there's loads of stuff in here. And on top of that, this got here quicker than stuff from a city 3 hours away. So it's pretty damn good postage. And as we see here, this is the Eruntop 8586D Plus, and it's a rework station or reflow, or I'm not sure. I don't do a lot of this SMD stuff, but I'm having an increasing need, which is where this come along. I thought I'd buy a cheap one for the low volume of the stuff that I do. So let's get assembling. I'm going to cut you to the unboxing video, and then we'll be back with the assembly. Alright, this last one I've been waiting for quite some time. And we can probably see sort of through here, it's like a workstation. It's a rework or a reflow station. This could be interesting to get into. I'm not sure which way they've done this box up. And they've just taped the living hell out of it. So I'm going to cut the label off the top here first, so that unlike the last take, my address is not in public view. Let's get this off here. This one's going to take some work. I've used about 3 miles of packing tape, as is usual. Oh. And there is an Ozpost tracking number on the top here that I need to blank out too. And apparently I can't find my blanking out texter. So I'm going to use some blanking out tape. Right. Now. Wow, that didn't work at all. You can see straight through it. Let's try this now. That might help. Okay, so how do we get into this box? I notice there's a lip along here. Let's change our camera angle. And I'm bumping stuff with my elbow in the background here. That feels like... I think I see how this box works. I think I'm onto something here. It'd be great if I wanted a retail package. That's all covered in packing tape. Right. I think I found the seams of the box already. Okay. Now, should be able to pry this bit out. This is good. Here we go. Here's our lid. Okay. Now, what have we got? An instruction manual that, with my limited knowledge, is essentially useless. What have we got here? Oh, tweezers for all those pimple picking days, and perhaps SMD component picking as well. That'll be handy. Have a brush. That'll be good for nose hairs. Oh yeah, solder wick. That's been an expensive bit of solder wick. Oh, this is snazzy. Oh, purple. Wow, that's, I'd almost call that sex toy purple. That'll be good. What else have we got? An IEC lead. Like I need another one of them. Actually, I've started to deplete my collection of 500 of them. What else have we got here? Oh, this is interesting. Scissors or knife? I think, given my current level of dexterity, I think scissors might be the option here. Although I see wires, so am I not chopping anything up? Oh, okay, I won't open that because I can see through here. This is another ceramic heating element. That's a spare heater element. Oh wow, this was really worth the money if I've got a spare element. All right. Wow, this was you know what, I ordered this the same time as I ordered some other stuff that hasn't arrived yet, except the other stuff I ordered within Australia from the nearest city, which is about 3 hours away, and this got here to China before them. Amazing. Now this is some kind of tool with 2 wires. I'm sure this has a purpose. I've seen a lot of people with these in the kits. I don't know what it's for yet. We'll figure that out. Wow. Okay, another classic solder sucking tool. Oh, this one's a little bit niftier than my current one. Let's have a look at my current one. My existing one's seen many years, and it's an aluminium one, and it's probably a little bit better sealed, but it's also a little slower. So I don't know, maybe that might work. So now we have the actual soldering iron unit itself, which has got a nice protective tip on the end. That's good, and looks like an old CB microphone connector. Oh no, it's a 5-pin one, 5-pin DIN, but still, handy. What have we got? Oh, this looks like a spare heater element. There, that is. It's a spare ceramic heater element for the soldering iron. Oh, this was actually, I bought the deluxe kit. I think that's actually handy. Here's some copper wire that goes in. I've got a 3D printed one of these, and I use Brillo pads, but the copper one might be better. I've got the soldering iron stand with a moist sponge, whereas I prefer this over sponges. I'm running out of desk space here. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. A whole bunch of spare tips. I've got with all this stuff, this only cost me a smidgen over 100 Australian dollars. I'm shocked that all this stuff's in here. So yeah, lots of different types of tips and shapes, and wow. Okay, I'm surprised I'm actually getting some value for money here. Alright, so here's all the different heat flow tips and shapes. Got square ones, round ones, needle ones, big fat ones. Wow, it's like people with all shapes and sizes. Right, let's move them out of the way. Oh, and there's one more. That's a medium size. Oh, a plastic sex toy holder. Or no? Oh, that's the Reflow Gun thing that goes on the side. That's what that is. What else have we got? I think this is the Reflow Gun itself. Yep, here we go. There's the Reflow Gun itself. Oh, that's nice. Geez, they packed a lot in one box. Hey, I think I got my own money's worth here. Wow. Right, and this looks like the main unit. Oh, there's more stuff behind it. So this is the main unit. This is the Eruntop 856A. Oh, 8586D plus. Whatever that means. We'll find out. And we've got, oh, okay, I was about to criticize them for these connectors and go, hey, we can plug the soldering iron in the wrong socket. No, we can't. They've used differently keyed and pinned plugs. That's some intellect I didn't expect out of China. So yes, SMD rework temp and soldering temp, run both at once. IEC plug on the back. I'm going to guess there's switch mode supply in here, but it's actually suitably heavy, and it's a metal box. Wow. Okay. I'm actually quite seriously impressed at the moment. Well, now I've got millions of this kind of kit from Mix iPhone repairs. Spare solder. Okay. Solder wire, 1mm. Okay, yeah, I've got 1mm, but 6337. So that is lead stuff. So that's all right. What else have we got? Jumper wire, 0.1mm, tiny stuff. An eraser, a plastic cardboard box. What is this? It's a something. How do I get into it? I'm sure some of you with Google Translate app are probably getting on this video and checking what this actually says, but I'm going to just find out by opening it. So that's some resin. That will probably be flux or something. That's some kind of resin. I'll use the optical translate later on and find out what that is, and I'll put it up in a subtitle right about here. That's if I remember. What else? Bits of foam. Another bit of foam. Oh, expensive complimentary foam. and a business or warranty card. This looks like warranty to me. Again, I'll get Google Translate onto this one. I might not put subtitles up, but we'll see. So that's it for the box. Well, let's just scoot around here. Well, we have a pile of stuff. That actually really only cost me like 100 or 120 bucks. I don't recall. That's amazing value. I'm going to put this together later and we'll see what happens. Okay, so while you guys have been busy watching that video, I've taken the time to find all the spare bits at home. I've still got some of these tips. I'm just deciding on which one to use. I have found it a nice little hidey hole right here. Not quite as convenient as I would like, but I now discover I'm going to have trouble getting them out. Anyway, first world problems. Now I have the soldering iron section hiding up here out of the way, because I like my old faithful sitting right here where I can grab it with my right hand. And I have the Reflow Gun sitting up here. I haven't assembled it strictly as per the manual, but that should stay there. So my next job is selecting an appropriate tip. I'm not quite sure. I've got lots of options and I'm inexperienced, so that's going to be interesting. But we're getting somewhere. We'll do a demo very shortly. Okay, so now's the time to fire it up for the very first time. So we're going to put some power to it. See how we go. I heard the Reflow Gun buzz a little bit like it was doing a self-test. Both these sides are off. Well, I think probably the first thing I want to do is fire up the soldering iron. Well, I need to bolt that down apparently. It's not heavy, the switch is quite firm and push the whole unit back. So I'm going to let that come up to temperature and we'll find out. That's our air adjust. I've got two calibration buttons. I'll have to read the manual, the Chinglish manual, to figure that out. We'll find out what happens here. One of the first jobs I think is to tin the tip of the soldering iron. So I'll get that happening. I think I've got my outlet fan going. So I'm going to hook that up. A little hook above my workstation here. So my soldering fume vent will sit above here. See if we can get a good angle of what's happening here. It's about 240 something. I think we've got to come up a bit more than that before we can solder anything. But it has come up to temperature quite quickly, so let's see. And I've got a little steel plate under here just to stop the drops coming out. So, well, we're up to temperature pretty quick. About 300. And this is flux core solder. It's what I like to use for tinning tips. Try and get all this. Looks like there's really one section of the steel tip. The rest is tinned with something else, but as we get it hot enough, it is starting to melt up there. So we'll keep going and we'll just tin this and clean the iron a few times and we'll get all this happening. Right, we'll keep going here. I just like to do this a few times, get the iron nicely seasoned before using it. That's why I use the cheap solder for this. Alright, that looks pretty good, and we're at about 390 degrees. I think I need to bring that back down a smidgen. So I'll bring her right down to about sort of 350. I think should be more than enough. In fact, it's pretty low temp solder. Let's just stick her at 300 and see how we go. It's going to be a bit of a process learning this, and also getting that hook in the right spot. So we're sitting, it's coming down a little bit. Just see how we melt at about 300. See, that's not bad. That's got a similar feel to my old trusty one, which actually has a magnetic thermal tip in it. My good old ancient Weller that I got free because it was in the boot of a car that had a rollover, and it's still going. But these are regulated by the type of tip you put in. Once they get to temperature, the magnetism drops off and it disconnects with a little contact inside there. This one's been a wonderful iron. It's getting hard to find magnetic tips for it. This one will be interesting to see how well that works, but it's also a different class. It's a much finer tip. So that's working well. Let's cut that off and we'll get the Reflow gun and see what we can do with that. Okay, so for the heat gun, we've got a bit of prep. Now I found my target board. This is the front panel of an old DVR system that's long since dead. Designed by SSJ apparently. Anyway, and I've got a blob of blue tack here. I'm going to stick that down to the bench in a comfortable position. And we're going to turn on our reflow gun here. And let's have a crack with this reflow gun. Okay, so, there's a magnet in the base, so when I hang this up, the reflow gun turns off. That's very nice. So, see if I can convince any of this to lift up. Let's find one that's better in the camera angle, maybe that one. Not really afraid of damaging any of these. Now I've picked a nozzle that's sort of halfway in between. It seems to be the most medium size I can find. I acknowledge normally I should probably find myself some flux to get things like this off. You know what, let's try a bit further along here and get a better source of light. You might be able to see what I'm doing here. Let's try this little capacitor on the end here for a start. I'm just going to sit this here because I don't care about this board. I don't think I'm hot enough somehow. I'll just let it go for a bit. Sometimes these things take a bit to heat up. But I'm on the conservative side of the temperature. Let's bump this up a bit. Off memory, I think lead-free solder only really needs a couple of 100 degrees. Not a great deal. I think, or I presume we're dealing in Celsius here. Let's see. Felt a bit soft and movable there, but let's see how we go. Got the air at sort of a medium flow. Trying to start at the mid-ranges. A little bit like the theory of a car dash. In a normal situation, most dials should be pointing up and be dead center for normal operations, with a few exceptions. It's pretty much the same with the aircraft, so you can glance across the whole dial or the whole dash, and if there's a dial that's not straight up, it's something you should be paying attention to. That's on there pretty solid. It's not coming off. Well, let's get a bit of solder on that. Let's see what happens. It's hot enough to melt solder. Well, it's softening the solder. This is not lead-free or solder paste. It's not low temp stuff. So maybe flux would help this. I have a little bit that Tinkerman Mick gave me. Yeah, but just not quite hot enough. Let's go up a little bit more. Alright, I located the gift of flux from Tinkerman Mick. And wow, this board is very hot to touch at the moment. Let's get a bit of flux paste on this, with the hope that it might help get some of this solder flowing. This is all experimenting yet. I really haven't done a lot with this gun. In fact, the only time I've used a reflow gun in like the last 15 years has been Tinkerman Mick's. Okay, so the gun's just cooled down and turned off. If I lift it off the holder, oh, that is very convenient. I like that. Okay, so now we can see our flux melting. Good indication of where the heat's going. What I'm looking for is for that solder to just bubble up or bead up. And I can definitely smell that flux. I can actually kind of taste it too, which means my ventilation's not quite right yet. So I would expect there'd be plenty of heat in there to remove that by now, but it's still on, solid as a rock. Wow. Well, okay, there's nothing for it. We've got a spare heater element. Let's bump our up to about 300. Is that going to hit the crucial point? I'd be worried it would damage components at this temperature. But, you know, let's see what we can do. No, still nothing. I got a feeling we're way above sort of a safe temperature here. Let's move along to something else. Maybe we're picking on a dud component or something. Here's one that's in a cockeyed position. Well, Okay, I just put my hand on the other end of the board. That was not wise. Okay, let's see if we can get this guy off. Wow. I'm not sure what kind of solder they used on this, but geez, it's taken a lot of temperature. So yeah, I'm just going to shut this down for a bit. I'm going to do some homework. I might find another board. Okay, so we've got ourselves an old 256 PC 133 meg RAM stick. I think that's pretty sacrificial. I'm going to stick a little bit of solder paste down here. See if we can pull this guy off. Maybe this is using low melt solder. I'm going to go straight into 300 degrees and see what happens. And I need to probably adjust my cable length a little bit. Here we go, little surface mount component. Can we lift you off the board? Not yet, apparently. Maybe it's my choice of tip. Maybe I need a smaller tip down here. Now let's increase the air rate. See if we can blow it off the board. Still on pretty tight. Just going to let it sit here and heat for a bit. Now, I know this is not strictly an approved method. No, she's not coming off the board. Alright, let me try a different tip. Okay, we're back at a slightly higher zoom level. So I'm going to pick on this little one. I just had some success in getting one off. Now what I had to do is I had to ramp it up to a good 400 degrees. And I had to apply a little bit of tinning, so a bit of other solder to get it off. So let's have a quick crack at that right now. I also needed to just sit there with the component for a little bit longer. So there's our bead of solder. I also needed to change the angle at which I was aiming this. And I'm also on a smaller nozzle now. So we've got definitely a good bead of solder flying around here. Some point we should be able to just pick that off the board if we've got this right. There we go. Popped off a bit of a chunky rip off, but it came off either way. I think if I've got proper components, or if I'm soldering these on, I can probably use low melt solder. Could be that this is either out of China and this is lead based solder, or it's not low melt. Something like that. This requires a lot more heat to get things off. That board is getting overall quite hot. I'm trying here without flux or a bit of extra solder. Yeah, and apparently the melting point is a little higher here. So let's just put this in here. Wow, okay, yep. I definitely need my ventilation for this. So I've run a bit of solder around here just to try and change the chemistry of whatever's bonding that on the board. So now that, yeah, that picks off easily. Okay, so it's just a bit more patience, obviously. Let's try this little guy here. Let's try this with nothing this time. Get him a little bit hot. Now, I'm using my naked eyes, and this is a whole lot harder to see than you can probably see through the camera. But we're just going to get this nice and hot here for a minute. And I'm looking for that solder to change texture. There we go. Okay, so we lifted off the board. So it looks like 400 is going to be about my butter zone for not killing things and pulling stuff off. A bit more modern, and see how this Reflow Gun goes. I'm going to contact Tinkerman Mick, who's a pro with these things, and see what he comes up with and what his suggestions are in terms of settings. He's got a very similar machine. So in any case, let's spin you around and we'll have a look at the machine. It's now in cool down mode, and it's detected the magnet in the proper holder, and it's just gone into cool down. It's switched off the heating element, and the fan will run until it reaches a comfortable temperature, I think about 30 or 40 degrees, and it will shut off. So I'm happy with that. But I'm going to let that cool off, and I'm going to shut things down. I'm going to find some food. It's been a long day. But yeah, anyway, I hope you like this little quick little demonstration of my recent purchase. So yeah, I think it's actually not too bad for the money, but time will tell, I guess. And if those extra heating elements are anything to go by, they probably expect them to fail. So I don't know. We'll see how we go. Either way, I'm pretty excited. This gives me some extra opportunities that I never had before. So I'll see you all in the next one, and that might be my dinner. Well, I just thought I'd add an additional to this. I'm going to turn off the reflow gun in the back here. I changed to a bigger nozzle, like this hulking great thing, and I found it was really good for getting chips off. And so I found I could start stripping chips off the board. So I have now a whole bunch of RAM chips, and I reattached one as well. Can you tell which one? So let's just look at this one. This is a factory job, and this is my attempt. Might even be able to zoom in here. So here is my attempt. I think it's not too bad. And over here is the factory job. I'd have a hard time telling if I wasn't really looking for it. So this could be an alright job. I think there's a couple of cold ones up the top there, but otherwise we're looking pretty good. So I'm happy.